Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the early and main slate on DraftKings for MLB May 9th, today's date. Did get requested in my last video, I believe it was on a split slate, to start covering the early slate. I do play the early slate pretty much every time there is an early slate. Usually every Wednesday and Thursday, I think, are the days, or today's video will be for Wednesday, but yeah, usually every Wednesday and Thursday there's a split slate where there's a bunch of early games. So I'm going to cover the early and main slate. I'm going to go ahead and put my 5 plays in. They're already in on both early and main slate. Don't just plug in the plays. Do listen to me. Listen to what I have to say about these guys, why I chose them. Obviously, I'm not going to get everybody right every single day, so if you disagree with me, you can definitely move these guys around. Don't just plug them in without any research. Always hear me out, guys, because definitely going to get some plays wrong. But yeah, we'll start off up top with Garrett Cole. Talk about why I chose the plays I did, and then I'll quickly go over the slate, like the pitching options for the early slate, pitching options for the main slate, talk about the ones I like. But yeah, Garrett Cole, I think pretty clearly the number one pitcher on the early slate. The next most expensive guy is Carlos Carrasco versus the Brewers. And I'm not a big fan of that matchup, at least with Carrasco being 11,500. Kluber didn't have that good of a game against the Brewers, which is pretty disappointing. I don't think I want to go to Carrasco here, especially when we have Garrett Cole up top against Oakland. This is just such a good matchup for Garrett Cole. The dude's been absolutely insane this year. Arguably, he's been the best pitcher in the league. Him or Max Scherzer, you could argue. Been the best pitcher so far. Garrett Cole's coming off a great game against Arizona, where he pitched a complete game, had 60 DraftKings points, only allowed 1 hit, got 16 strikeouts. The dude's been great this year. This is a great matchup with the Athletics, a team that definitely has some strikeouts in their lineup. Love the ballpark here in Oakland, good pitcher's park. I think Garrett Cole, clearly the number one pitcher on this slate. There's really no other pitcher that I could see possibly outscoring him, maybe Carrasco, but I think Garrett Cole definitely going to be the number one pitcher on this slate, the highest scoring pitcher, I should say. So you're going to want to get him into your lineups and then finding some value. That's where I like Trevor Williams here, 6,700 versus the White Sox. Now, there aren't a ton of cheap SP2s that I really like today, but Trevor Williams, I think, is a guy that we can go to here. This matchup with the White Sox scares me a bit, but this is definitely a team that has some strikeouts in their lineup. Their implied run total for today is at 4.5 runs, so not very, very high. I do like Williams here. He's 6,700. He pairs well with Garrett Cole. Gives you some salary to fit in some bats. Do have a Coors Field game on the early slate. You know you're going to want to get some exposure to that. So that's why I like Trevor Williams as a cheap SP2. I don't think he's going to crush today, but if he can get me 15 to 20 DK points at 6,700, and if Garrett Cole can go out there and really show out, this could definitely be a good combo, pretty much the winning combo for this early slate. So I like going with Garrett Cole, Trevor Williams. If we're looking for other SP2s besides Williams, there isn't a ton I like I said. Junior Guerra against the Indians, I'm probably not going there. Liriano against Texas maybe has upside, but that's a scary matchup in Texas with the Heat. Good hitters park there. That kind of scares me. I did like this matchup for Quintana, but going with Cole and Quintana, that's a ton of salary to pay for pitchers, and that doesn't really leave you anything to fit in bats. So I like Quintana, but couldn't pair him with Cole. And then guys like Tyler Anderson and Coors, Bartolo Colon, Megden versus the Astros. I'm just not going to these guys. So Trevor Williams was kind of the guy that stood out to me if I wanted to pair a cheap option with Garrett Cole. And then for the bats, starting off at third base, Jameer Candelario, I think that's how you say his name. I really like him here versus Bartolo Colon. I do like the Tigers on this slate as a stack. They're pretty cheap, kind of from top to bottom. You can fit these guys in with Garrett Cole if you do decide to play Cole here. These guys from top to bottom, like I said, some good value with Martin at 4K leading off. Candelario only 3.8. Castellanos is pretty cheap as well, 4,300. Victor Martinez has been hitting the ball well lately. He's only 3,200 projected back cleanup. Some good value from this Tigers lineup. I don't think Bartolo Colon is a very good pitcher. Good hitters park here. It's going to be 85 degrees in Texas. Hot day in Texas. Great hitters park. So I like the Tigers as a stack today. Definitely like Candelario at third base for some value. 3,800. And then my final 2 plays from my 5 on the early slate. Going to Coors Field, getting some exposure to that game. First guy I like here, Carlos Gonzalez at 4K. Projected to be in the lineup for the Rockies today. He's in their projected lineup, expected to bat 4th, versus Jaime Barria. I think that's how you say his name. A guy that I don't really think is that great of a pitcher. He's not getting any respect from Vegas here. The Rockies have the highest implied run total on this slate is 6.3 runs. Definitely a team we want to get some exposure to, especially the lefties like Charlie Blackmon, obviously it's going to be hard to play him with Garrett Cole, but if you can fit in Blackmon, he's a great play. Cargo, Parra, we'll talk about in a second, some good value there. Even guys towards the bottom with Ian Desmond. Prefer Desmond when he's going up against a lefty, but he's only 3,900. Some value there. Tony Walters, I know he's not in the projected lineup, but if he bats, since he is a lefty, if he's in the projected lineup, I'm sure, or if he's in the lineup, I'm sure he could be some good value. Ionette is cheap as well, though, if he catches for today. Obviously, you love the Rockies. You want to get some exposure to them. So Cargo, 4K, in the projected lineup for the Rockies. I think he makes a lot of sense at home in Coors. Best hitters park in the game. And then getting more exposure to that team with Gerardo Parra. Pretty much the same thing goes for Parra as it goes for Parra as it did for Gonzalez. Just getting some exposure to this team. They have an insane implied run total for today, 6.3 runs. They're going to put up runs versus Berea. You want to get the value mainly if you're going to play Garrett Cole. So that's where Cargo and Parra, two guys that really just stick out to me, projected at 4th and 5th. Some good value from this team. So these are my 5 plays for the early slate. Garrett Cole, Trevor Williams, Candelario, Gonzalez, and Parra. Just doing a quick overview of the early slate. When it comes to pitcher, I definitely think you're paying up for Garrett Cole. And then I like Williams as a cheap SP2 to pair with Garrett Cole. If you can find enough value at hitter, you could play Cole and Quintana if you can find the value, but it's going to be pretty hard to do that. Mainly it's Cole and Williams for me. And then batters, I'm really looking to some of the value from the Rockies. And I really like the Tigers today. Some alternatives to go with the Rockies. These guys are dirt cheap versus Bartolo Colon. I think they make a ton of sense. But now moving on to the main slate, we'll do BVP plays on the early slate. If we look at some BVP plays with a sample size, Adrian Beltre, 11 for 35 with a home run versus Liriano. Ben Zobrist, 15 for 43 with a home run versus Wei-Yin Chen. Jose Altuve, 7 for 14 with a home run versus Megden. Correa is 5 for 10 with a home run versus Megden. Jonathan Lucroy, 9 for 21 for a 429 average versus Garrett Cole. Those are all the BVP plays on the early slate. PVB, the only PVB play on the early slate is Garrett Cole, who has done really well versus the Athletics. They've only hit him for a 267 average. Through 75 at-bats, Garrett Cole has 24 strikeouts versus the Athletics. Definitely been able to get the Ks against them. And then pitchers that have done poorly in the early slate, Daniel Megden struggled against the Astros. They've hit him for a 353 average with 3 home runs and 68 at-bats. But yeah, now if we want to move on to the main slate, look at my 5 plays for the main slate. I believe we have 7 games. Yeah, 7 games on the main slate. Talk about the pitchers I like. I'm going with Gio Gonzalez and Alex Wood. Those are 2 pitchers I like on the main slate. I like this spot for Gio Gonzalez versus the Padres, a team that we know will strike out. And this is a spot where Gonzalez can definitely rack up some Ks. Patrick Corbin is the most expensive pitcher on the main slate, but 13.3, that's a really high price tag to pay for Corbin. I know he's been great this year, but I like the savings you get if you roll with Gio Gonzalez, a guy that has upside here, a team that we know will strike out. They have a low implied run total for today, just 3.6 runs, good pitchers Park and Petco. I think things are setting up well for Gio to have a good game here. I think he can easily get 20 to 25, close to 30 DK points, maybe even exceed that amount. We've seen Gio have good games this year against the Diamondbacks, 7 innings with 8 strikeouts, 29 DK points against the Reds, 6 innings with 7 strikeouts. The dude can definitely get Ks, and this is obviously a great matchup to get strikeouts in. So like Gio's a SP1, and then I rolled with Alex Wood as a cheap SP2. I think Wood, a little bit underpriced for the talent level that this guy has. I know he's kind of been up and down this year, but I think this is a spot where we could see Alex Wood get back on the right track and get things going here. Versus the Diamondbacks, a team that definitely has some strikeouts in their lineup. They have a low implied run total for today at 3.4 runs. This game definitely going to be a pitcher's duel. I feel like Wood and Corbin, 2 really good pitchers. Definitely just want the pitchers in this game, not very interested in hitters. But Alex Wood, cheap SP2, I think makes a lot of sense here. 7,600, fits really well with Gio Gonzalez. I think when you play Gonzalez and Wood, that still leaves you like nearly 4K remaining for your bats, or a little bit under that. So like Gio and Wood, if we talk about some of the other pitchers, obviously Corbin versus the Dodgers you could go to, but it's 13.3. I think it's pretty hard to play Corbin today at that price, at least finding a cheap SP2 to pair with him. Rick Porcello, I'm not very interested in at 10.8. Would much rather have Gio Gonzalez. Then SP2s, I think Julio Teheran might have some upside here versus the Rays, but Teheran's a little bit of a risky play, and he's up to 8,900 in price. And I'm not sure I really want to pay that price tag for him. Maybe in tournaments you could go there. But 8,900, I think I'd rather go down to Wood. I think Tanaka might have some upside versus the Red Sox, but another dangerous matchup there. A spot where Tanaka could really struggle, could rack up strikeouts. You really don't know with Tanaka. More of a GPP play. Not very interested in him in cash games. I think Wood is clearly the cash game SP2. Nick Pivetta could be like a cheap SP2 if you wanted to go with Corbin. Maybe you could go Corbin and Nick Pivetta. This is definitely a spot where Nick Pivetta has upside, but he is another guy that's pretty risky. We saw him get absolutely blown up by the Nationals his last start, putting up negative 12 DraftKings points. We also saw him really go out and dominate earlier this year against the Marlins. He pitched 5 2/3 innings, got 9 strikeouts, 32 DraftKings points. Pivetta does have upside. This is a San Francisco team that has strikeouts in their lineup. So if you wanted to go Corbin and Pivetta, I think that makes sense. But I think Gio Gonzalez and Alex Wood is more a much more preferred combo of pitchers that I like. So Gio and Wood are kind of my two pitchers. Then Corbin, I think, is a guy you can pet for. Pivetta is a cheap option you can look to. Tehran and Tanaka are two GPP options I like. They're risky, but two guys that do have upside, I feel like. And then bats today, I went with 3 Orioles in my lineup, or at least in my 5 plays. I love the Orioles here versus Eric Skoglund. The dude is not a good pitcher. He really gives up a ton of power to righties. So I went with a righty-heavy stack from the Orioles. First off with Trey Mancini. The dude's just too cheap, 3,600, playing in Camden Yards versus a bad lefty. I think the Orioles are able to put up a ton of runs here. They have a implied run total of 5 runs on the main slate. Getting some exposure to them I think makes a ton of sense here. They're dirt cheap. Pretty much besides Machado, you got some great value in this lineup with Mancini, Adam Jones, Scope, Trumbo, even Valencia down there in the 7 hole. Great value from the Orioles. Love Mancini today. Love Jonathan Scope, projected to bat second, I believe. Or no, projected to bat cleanup, excuse me. I think this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stack from the Orioles is a great stack. Guys with power in this lineup at the top. Davis, probably not going to go there lefty on lefty, but these righties 1 through 5 with all the power versus Skoglund, I think make a ton of sense. I love Mancini for value at first base or in the outfield. You can play him at both positions. Love Scope for second base value, just 3,500, a guy that has power versus lefties. And obviously Manny Machado, I feel like is a stud play here. I think he's one of the top, or probably one of my favorite hitters on the main slate. 4,900 versus Eric Skoglund. I feel like Machado might be too cheap, honestly. In Camden Yards versus a terrible lefty that gives up home runs. I think Machado goes yard today. If I have to pick one guy on the main slate that goes yard, it's definitely Machado. So I like him. One of my favorite plays on the main slate. Definitely should be locking him in at shortstop. But yeah, guys, these are my 5 plays for the 7-game night slate. Gio Gonzalez, Alex Wood, Trey Mancini, Jonathan Scope, and Manny Machado. Just doing a quick overview of the night slate. I think Gio Gonzalez and Alex Wood are kind of the 2 pitchers I'm building around today. And then I'm really just loading up on Orioles bats. The righties from this lineup, 1 through 5. Definitely getting a ton of exposure there. I think the Royals on the other side could be a stack as well versus Andrew Kastner. Another guy that I don't think is that good of a pitcher. Great ballpark upgrade for the Royals going to Camden Yards, so I do like them here. I think the Yankees could be sneaky versus Rick Porcello. Even though Porcello's been really good this year, I definitely like the Yankees here. If you can fit these guys in, obviously they're expensive, but maybe some value at the top there with Brett Garner, 3-3. You could go to. I think that's really it for stacks. It's really the Orioles for me on the slate. They're just really popping. My favorite stack on the main slate by far. But yeah, guys, that's really it for my 5 plays for the main slate, and I think that's really it for this video. We'll do BVP plays for the main slate. Just a couple here. Masahiro Tanaka has struggled versus JD Martinez. Martinez has hit him for a 583 average, great BVP, 7 for 12 with 3 home runs. Hanley Ramirez also hit Tanaka well, 6 for 26 with 3 home runs. Carlos Gomez, 4 for 16 with a home run versus Tehran. Wilson Ramos, 4 for 11 with a home run versus Tehran. And Denard Span has also hit Tehran well, 13 for 35 with a home run, 371 average. Then Goldschmidt and Pollock have both hit Alex Wood well. Goldschmidt 6 for 25 with 3 home runs, and Pollock 9 for 21 with 2 home runs. Pitchers, they've done well in their matchups. Rick Porcello has done well against the Yankees in the past, but I think I still like the Yankees here. They are getting some good respect from Vegas, so I do like the Yankees still as a stack, even though Porcello has done well against them in the past. The Yankees have only hit Porcello for a 204 average and 157 at-bats. Then pitchers that have done poorly in their matchups, Tehran has struggled against the Rays. They've hit him for a 300 average. Gio Gonzalez has struggled against the Padres, but I don't think that's going to keep me off of him. I still like Gio here. The Padres have hit him for a 279 average and 86 at-bats. And then Alex Wood has also struggled against the Diamondbacks, but I still like Alex Wood here. I think he's a great SB2 option, especially for cash games at his price. The Diamondbacks have hit him for a 268 average and 138 at bats. But yeah, guys, I think that's it for BVP and PVB on the main slate. And I think that's really it for this video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Hopefully you enjoyed sort of the early slate and main slate breakdown. Definitely going to keep doing these if you guys want me to, especially when it's like a split slate, when there's like 6-7 early games, 6-7 night games. We'll definitely do a video where I cover both. But yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it helped you. If you did enjoy, just make sure you click that like button down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe as well. And if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Or you can always hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And good luck tonight on this slate, guys. Peace.